The story of Tim Bergling, the Swedish musical prodigy known to the world as Avicii, is a profoundly modern tragedy, a parable of the digital age where a shy, introverted bedroom producer was catapulted by the internet into a stratosphere of fame for which his sensitive soul was catastrophically ill-equipped. His life was a breathtaking ascent fueled by a gift for melody that defined a generation of pop music, yet it was shadowed by a parallel, invisible descent into a private hell of anxiety, physical agony, and existential despair. To understand Avicii is to witness the violent collision between an authentic, fragile artistic spirit and the relentless industrial machinery of global celebrity. A machine that consumed his health, peace, and ultimately his life, leaving behind a legacy of timeless anthems tinged with an unbearable poignancy. He was the broken talent whose very brokenness stemmed from the unsustainable pressure of maintaining the brilliant, joyous facade his music projected. His beginnings were humble, digital, and driven by pure passion. Born in Stockholm in 1989, Tim Bergling was a creative and introspective child. At age 8, he began mixing music in his bedroom, and by 16, he was a self-taught producer, crafting remixes on a pirated copy of music software and posting them on online forums. This was his natural habitat, a private, digital space where sound and emotion could be manipulated without the terrifying glare of a live audience. His chosen stage name, Avicii, was telling, a respelling of Avicii, the lowest level of Buddhist hell. Even at the outset, there was an unconscious acknowledgement of struggle. His breakthrough was quintessentially millennial. The track, Seek Bromance, gained traction online, but it was 2011's Levels that detonated his career. Built around a soaring sample of Etta James, the song was a pure shot of euphoria, an instrumental anthem that became ubiquitous in clubs and festivals worldwide. It earned him Grammy nominations and transformed him, almost overnight, from a forum-hopping enthusiast into one of the most sought-after electronic artists on the planet. The industry saw a blonde, high-cheekbone poster boy for the burgeoning EDM explosion, a performer who could command $250,000 a night. What it failed to see was the profoundly anxious young man behind the decks. For Tim Bergling, the demands of this new life were a form of torture. Plagued by shyness and self-consciousness since his teens, he was terrified of public attention. The relentless travel, sometimes over 250 shows a year, living out of a suitcase, the constant social interactions, and the loss of all privacy were anathema to his nature. "The scene was not for me," he confessed. "It was not the shows and not the music. It was always the other stuff surrounding it that never came naturally to me. I'm more of an introverted person in general. I took on board too much negative energy." To cope with the crippling anxiety of performance, he discovered a dangerous solution: alcohol. "I found the magical cure of just having a couple of drinks before going on," he said. This self-medication escalated rapidly from a coping mechanism to a life-threatening dependency. The touring schedule was inhuman, a never-ending tour that circled the globe only to begin again immediately. In a desperate text to his manager in 2011, he revealed the crushing reality beneath the glamour. "It feels like I'm going to faint every single day now. I push it back down and choose not to bring it up because there's nothing I can do about it." His body soon began to scream in protest, manifesting the psychological stress in acute physical form. In 2012, at just 22, he was hospitalized with excruciating stomach pain and diagnosed with acute pancreatitis, a direct result of excessive drinking. Doctors ordered him to abstain from alcohol for 6 months to heal, but the machinery would not stop. Prescribed the powerful opioid oxycodone for the pain, he returned to the road, now adding pill popping to his dangerous repertoire of coping strategies. He ignored the medical advice, later writing with grim regret, "Of course, I didn't listen to the majority of doctors. I listened to the couple who said it would be okay if I was careful. I was ignorant and naive and touring the world." The physical breakdown became a vicious cycle. His pancreas remained inflamed, and in 2014, his appendix ruptured, requiring emergency surgery to also remove his gallbladder. Each hospital stay resulted in more prescriptions for opioid painkillers, deepening a chemical dependence that was quietly spiraling out of control. Amid this personal turmoil, his artistic courage remained undimmed, even as it confounded his fans. In 2013, at the prestigious Ultra Music Festival in Miami, he chose not to deliver a predictable set of bangers. Instead, he premiered material from his upcoming album True with a live bluegrass band, complete with banjos, fiddles, and soul singers. The crowd was initially bewildered, even hostile, but Avicii was unapologetic. He was experimenting, pushing electronic music into uncharted territory. The gamble paid off spectacularly. True and its genre-defying lead single Wake Me Up, a fusion of folksy melodies, aloe-black soulful vocals, and pulsing house beats, became a global phenomenon, topping charts in 22 countries. The lyrics, about being woken up when it's all over, carried an unconscious, heartbreaking weight. He had reached a new peak of commercial and artistic success, yet he was more miserable and unwell than ever. The dichotomy was stark. The music spoke of freedom and awakening, while the artist felt increasingly trapped and besieged. By 2015, the cracks were becoming chasms. His mental state, eroded by constant travel, substance abuse, and a lack of genuine rest, deteriorated sharply. He was described as irritable, erratic, and trapped in nihilism. After 2 incidents where his stomach had to be pumped from a dangerous mix of alcohol and pills, his terrified family and team staged an intervention in Ibiza. He resisted fiercely, feeling betrayed, but eventually agreed to enter a rehab program. For the first time, in the stillness of treatment, he began to intellectually understand his addiction as a coping mechanism for profound mental anguish. He wrote in his journal, "It needed to be explained to me very logically and caveman-esque for me to truly understand its nature. Ouch, pain. Why me pain now?" After a month, he emerged with a new commitment to wellness, meditating, reading philosophy, and stepping away from touring. In March 2016, he made the shocking but necessary decision permanent. He retired from live performance. His heartfelt statement to fans cited his health, hoping to find a balance in life to be happy and be able to do what I loved most, music. He severed ties with his longtime manager, seeking to escape what he called the machine that was Avicii. For a time, there was hope. He traveled, focused on studio work, and in 2017 released the EP Avicii, 01, telling a friend, "This is the first year I felt like I've been able to kind of live normally." Collaborators raved about his focused energy and perfectionism in the studio. To the outside world, and to his relieved family, it seemed he had turned a corner. But the internal battles were far from over. The existential questions that had always haunted him, about meaning, purpose, and happiness, intensified in the silence he had fought so hard to gain. He plunged into extreme meditation, sometimes for entire days, in a fervent, almost desperate search for enlightenment and peace. He confessed to his girlfriend, "What if everyone around me is just a projection in my mind? Sometimes I just think these things. About how nothing really matters." The dissociation he had first experienced as a teenager after using marijuana, a feeling of being disconnected from reality, seemed to return. The very sensitivity that made him an artist now tormented him with unanswerable metaphysical pain. The end came with brutal suddenness in April 2018, while he was on a holiday with friends in Muscat, Oman. His behavior grew increasingly alarming. He was meditating with an intense, sun-blistered focus, refusing to eat, speak, or seek shade. A concerned friend called his father, Tim Bergling, to express grave worry. The next day, April 20th, Tim Bergling was found dead. His death was ruled a suicide. His family, in a searingly honest statement, painted a portrait of the son they lost. "Our beloved Tim was a seeker, a fragile artistic soul searching for answers to existential questions. An overachieving perfectionist who traveled and worked hard at a pace that led to extreme stress. He really struggled with thoughts about meaning, life, happiness. He could not go on any longer. He wanted to find peace." The tragedy was compounded by its cruel timing. He had just been in a period of intense creativity, working on what industry insiders called his best music in years. The album that would become the posthumous Tim was nearly complete. In the aftermath, his father Klaus articulated a complex grief felt by many. "I miss him every minute. But I admit, I get angry at him sometimes. Why did you do it? Why did you leave us?" More than anger, however, there was a determined mission to extract purpose from the pain. The Bergling family established the Tim Bergling Foundation, dedicated to mental health awareness and suicide prevention, particularly among young people. Klaus became an advocate for systemic change in the music industry, arguing that managers and labels needed a driver's license to prove they are fit to handle the well-being of fragile artists. Stockholm's major arena was renamed the Avicii Arena as a permanent tribute. Avicii's legacy is thus a duality as powerful as his music. He remains a foundational architect of modern pop, a melodist of genius who fearlessly blended genres and brought electronic music to the mainstream with integrity and heart. Songs like Wake Me Up, Hey Brother, and Levels are immortal anthems of collective joy. Yet, they are now forever heard alongside the quieter, tragic truth of the man who created them. His story is a devastating indictment of an industry that too often values product over person, output over health, and the show over the human being who must perform it. He was the broken talent because the world insisted he be a machine, and in the exhausting, painful effort to comply, the brilliant, sensitive soul of Tim Bergling was ultimately shattered. His music promised to wake us up, but the world around him slept through his cries for help until it was too late.